I had dreamed of my wedding night for so long. For 15 months, my husband and I had dated without ever touching each other beyond kisses and gentle romance. He always said, "No sex before marriage." At first, I thought it was sweet, like he was a true gentleman protecting me. But secretly, it wasn't easy for me. During my ovulation days, my body would burn for him. I tried. Sometimes I teased him. Sometimes I placed his hand where I wanted him most. But every time, he would pull away quickly, his face serious, as if touching him down there was forbidden. I thought it was discipline. I thought it was honor. But I had no idea he was hiding something from me. That night, after our big wedding, my heart was beating with excitement. Finally, I was going to be with my husband as one. I couldn't even wait to remove my gown. I let it fall off me and whispered to myself, "This is the moment I've been waiting for." I walked to the bathroom, my stomach flipping with butterflies. I could hear water running. My husband was already inside, bathing. A smile curved on my lips. Perfect, let's start from the bathroom and finish in the bedroom. I tied a towel around me, tiptoed to the door, and slowly pushed it open. The moment the door creaked, my husband turned sharply. His eyes widened in shock, like he had seen a ghost. In panic, he used his hands to cover his private area, then snatched a towel and wrapped it around himself in a rush. "What are you doing?" he barked. "Why would you barge in like that? Don't you know how to knock?" I froze. My lips trembled. "Knock? Am I supposed to knock before entering my husband's bathroom on our wedding night?" Before I could even answer, his voice grew sharper. "Leave." "My husband," I whispered, but he cut me off, his tone firm, almost desperate. I said leave. The authority in his voice shocked me. My body felt weak. Quietly, I turned and walked out, confused and embarrassed. A few minutes later, he came out, still wrapped in a towel. But instead of joining me in the bedroom to change, he picked up his clothes and walked straight into the sitting room. My heart sank. Why can't my husband undress in front of me? Is he that shy, or is something wrong? I forced the thought out of my head. Maybe he just needs time. Maybe it's normal since it's our first night. I freshened up in the bathroom and changed into the lingerie I had carefully picked for this day, a delicate piece I imagined would make my husband's eyes light up. I lay down on the bed, waiting. The air in the room felt heavy, too quiet. My husband sat near the bed, glued to his phone as if I wasn't there. My chest ached. Why isn't he looking at me? I shifted on the bed, stretching, arching, trying to catch his attention. I did all the little things women do when they need their man. But every time his eyes met mine, he quickly looked away. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I rose from the bed, my legs trembling, and walked slowly to him. I gently took his phone from his hands. His eyes flicked up to mine. "My husband," I whispered, my voice soft, almost pleading. "This is our wedding night. Let's make it special, let's make babies." For a moment, he just stared at me, his face pale, his eyes dim. Then he sighed weakly. "Okay," he said quietly. "Give me some minutes, let me reply someone first." I blinked, my chest tightening, but I forced a smile. "All right," I said, handing his phone back. Then I stood behind him, rubbing his head softly, trying to ease the strange distance between us. Little did I know, the secret he was hiding would soon come out, and when I finally discovered it, I would scream so loud the whole night would never be forgotten. I leaned closer to my husband, my hands trembling as I reached for his belt. My heart was racing, my body already burning with months of anticipation. Finally, after all the waiting, I was about to touch the man I married. But the moment my fingers brushed the buckle, my husband shot up like he had been stung. "A business partner just called me," he blurted out, his voice shaky. I'll be back in a few minutes." I froze, staring at him in disbelief. Business? At this hour? On our wedding night? My lips parted, my voice soft but breaking. "My husband, what business can't wait until tomorrow. Tonight is supposed to be ours." He gave me a small, awkward smile. "I'm sorry, love. But it's very important." I have to meet up. Then he leaned forward and kissed me on the forehead, like a brother comforting his sister. I'll be back soon. And just like that, he walked out the door. I sank onto the bed, my body heavy with disappointment. I had waited so long for this night. I had dreamed of finally feeling like a woman in my husband's arms, of him making me his. But now my husband had chosen business over me. Minutes dragged by, each one heavier than the last. Then suddenly I heard a knock on the door. My heart leapt. He's back. Excitement rushed through me. A smile spread across my face as I untied my lingerie, letting it slip from me. My body was bare, ready, glowing with the thought that my husband had come back for me at last. I opened the door and froze. It wasn't my husband. Standing there, half-dressed, was his younger brother. My breath caught in my throat. My hands flew to cover myself. "Oh my God, I'm sorry," I stammered, trying to close the door. But his eyes didn't even flinch. In fact, they roamed boldly over me, like he had been waiting for this. And then he smiled. "I like what I see," he said, his voice low, deliberate. The words slammed into me like a bomb. My knees felt weak. Did I hear him right? Before I could recover, he stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. "I just came to keep you company since my brother isn't around," he said with a smirk. "So you won't feel lonely." His eyes narrowed, his tone almost mocking. "I can do everything you want him to do for you, and even better." Shock kept me silent. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I stared at him, trying to process what I was hearing. Finally, my voice cracked through the silence. "Thank you for your concern, but I'm fine. I don't need anything." He didn't move. Instead, he walked closer and sat down on the edge of the bed, my wedding bed. "Don't be shy," he whispered, leaning closer. "Tell me what you need. I'll give it to you. I'll give you more than my husband ever can." My stomach twisted in disgust. "Leave," I said firmly. But he didn't. He kept pressing, his words smooth, persistent, like poison dripping into my ears. I raised my voice, anger finally cutting through my fear. I said, "Leave. Now." His smile faltered. For a moment, his eyes narrowed. But then he stood slowly, adjusting his half-buttoned shirt. "Fine," he muttered, walking toward the door. "But don't forget what I said. Your husband won't give you what you're looking for, but I can." The door shut behind him with a quiet click. I exhaled shakily and locked it immediately. My hands trembled as I leaned against the door, my mind racing. What is going on in this family? Why would his brother? And why does my husband keep avoiding me? My throat felt dry, so I went to the fridge to get some water. I yanked it open, empty. No bottles, nothing. My reflection on the cold metal door stared back at me, a newlywed bride, half broken already. And in that silence, a dreadful thought began to creep into my mind. Was my husband hiding something so terrible that even his own brother knew? I walked out of the bedroom, clutching my empty glass, heading toward the sitting room fridge. My throat was dry, my mind spinning from everything that had just happened with Alex. I only wanted a drink of water to calm myself down. But just before I reached the fridge, I froze. Voices. I pressed my back against the wall, my ears straining. It was my mother-in-law's voice. "So, Alex, how did it go?" she asked. Her tone was low but sharp, every word cutting into me. My breath caught in my throat. Alex sighed. "She didn't agree, Mum." There was a pause, then my mother-in-law's voice again, trembling with frustration. "No? She refused you? That's so disappointing. You should have tried harder instead of coming out so soon." My heart stopped. My skin went cold. "I tried," Alex muttered, his voice annoyed. "But she wouldn't even allow me to talk. She kept pushing me away." I gasped softly and slapped my hand over my mouth, terrified that even the sound of my breathing would give me away. My heart was pounding so violently, I was sure they could hear it through the walls. What was I hearing? Why was my mother-in-law encouraging her own son to do this to me? Slowly, quietly, I tiptoed backward, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the safety of my room, I shut the door gently and pressed my back against it, my whole body trembling. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. I scrolled quickly to my husband's number. My thumb hovered over the call button, my entire body screaming to tell him, "Your brother tried to touch me. Your mother is part of this." But then something inside me hesitated. Would my husband even believe me? I had no proof. No evidence.
Just my word against theirs.
And besides, what if my husband already knew? The thought made my stomach twist. I dropped my phone on the bed, my chest heaving. "I'll wait," I whispered to myself. "I'll wait until he comes back." But my husband never came. I lay there, eyes wide open in the dark, waiting, listening to every sound outside the door. Hours crawled by. My eyes burned with unshed tears. I checked the time on my phone. 2 a.m. Still no husband. Exhaustion finally pulled me under, but my sleep was not peaceful. It was broken, heavy with fear. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alex's smirk. Every time I shifted, I heard my mother-in-law's voice saying, "You should have tried harder." I rushed to lock the door, my hands shaking and my heart racing in fear. I lay back on the bed, but sleep never came. I was too scared, so I stayed awake all night, waiting for my husband to return, but he never showed up. By morning, I felt completely lost. How had my wedding night turned into such a nightmare? When he finally came back home, he looked tired, and there was a hint of guilt on his face. He walked over and said, "I'm sorry I didn't make it back after the business meeting last night." I kept quiet, even though inside I was filled with both anger and fear. It wasn't just that he left me alone on such an important night. What really haunted me was what had happened with his older brother. Should I tell him? What if he didn't believe me? Or worse, what if it caused a fight between them? I tried to convince myself maybe his brother had just been drinking too much after the wedding and didn't mean it. I tried to bury the memory. That day was supposed to be our honeymoon. I wanted to forget everything and just focus on us. Softly, I asked him, "Do you still remember? Today is our honeymoon." "Oh, I almost forgot," he said with a small laugh. "Okay, let me go tell my brother to get ready, so we can all go." My heart stopped. "Your brother? Why would he come? This is our honeymoon. We're supposed to be alone," I said, my voice rising in panic. "It's fine. He can come along to escort us," he replied casually. Frustration boiled inside me. "No, this is our special time. We need to be alone," I protested. We started arguing, and the tension between us grew heavier. After going back and forth for a while, he finally gave in. "Okay, fine. We'll go, just the two of us," he said, sounding annoyed. I felt a wave of relief, but the worry in my heart didn't fade. We packed our things and set out for the honeymoon. The place we went to was like something out of a fairy tale. The hotel was surrounded by tall palm trees that swayed gently in the breeze, and the shimmering blue pool sparkled in the sunlight. Our room was decorated with soft red rose petals scattered all over the bed, and the air smelled sweet, like fresh flowers. From the windows, we could see a peaceful beach where the waves kissed the shore again and again. It felt like a dream come true. We had a lovely meal together, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to believe that maybe everything was going to be okay. I started to feel a little hopeful again. After dinner, we decided to freshen up. My husband went into the shower first. After a while, I thought of surprising him again. I wrapped a towel around myself and walked toward the bathroom, hoping we could share a sweet moment together. But when I tried to open the door, it was locked. I knocked gently. "Can I come in?" I asked. "No, wait until I'm done," he replied from inside. A wave of disappointment hit me. I tried to tell him how nice it would be if we bathed together, but he refused again. I sighed and waited for my turn, feeling a little down. When I finally finished freshening up and came out, I saw him already on the bed, fully dressed and once again, focused on his phone. I didn't want the mood to get ruined, so I walked over, gently took off his shirt, and kissed him softly on the lips. I ran my hands across his chest, trying to feel close to him. For a brief moment, I thought maybe we would finally share that special connection. But then something strange happened. Every time I tried to touch him below his waist, He quickly pushed my hands away. My heart dropped. I felt both confused and hurt. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer directly, he just looked away. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "How are we supposed to have children if you keep acting like this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm not ready for a baby right now," he said coldly. His words felt like a heavy blow. "Then why did you marry me?" I snapped, my anger boiling. The rest of that night was awful. He didn't come close to me again. I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling lonelier than ever. I kept hoping he would hold me, but all I heard was his soft snoring as he slept peacefully beside me, while I stayed awake in the darkness with a breaking heart. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong, and it scared me. The honeymoon was nothing like I had dreamed. There were no loving moments, no closeness, only distance and confusion. The next morning, we packed up and returned home. I was angry, heartbroken, and completely confused. Something was terribly wrong, but I didn't know what. I had no one to talk to, and the weight of loneliness was beginning to crush me inside. Days turned into weeks, and still my husband never touched me. He acted like I wasn't even there. Every time I tried to get close, he pulled away, and each rejection cut me deeper. I felt like a stranger in my own marriage, trapped inside a life I didn't understand. One morning, as my husband dressed for work, I sat quietly on the edge of the bed. My heart was heavy, sinking lower with every second. I wanted so badly to ask him what was wrong, but fear held me back. What if he had no answer? Or worse, what if the truth shattered me even more? A few minutes after he left, the silence in the house grew so thick I could almost hear my own heartbeat. I sat there, trying to fight back my tears, and then I heard it, footsteps. My body stiffened. Slowly, the door creaked open. To my shock, it was his older brother. "Do you need anything?" he asked casually, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. I shook my head quickly. "No, I'm fine," I replied, hoping he would leave. But he didn't. Instead, he stepped closer and sat down beside me. Much too close. I could feel the heat of his body, and it made me uneasy. Then I saw his hand. It began to move slowly, inching toward my leg. My heart jumped. I pushed it away instantly, my chest pounding like a drum. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice shaking with fear. He gave me a sly smile, one that made my skin crawl. His eyes glinted in a way that sent a chill down my spine. "I just want to make you feel special," he whispered. My whole body froze. My stomach twisted painfully, and my mind screamed that something was terribly wrong. "I'm your brother's wife," I said louder this time, trying to sound brave, even though my knees felt weak. He leaned closer, his breath brushing against my skin. "That doesn't matter," he muttered. My heart stopped. The room felt like it was spinning. Desperate, I reminded him, "You're married too, you have children." His face darkened, and his smile faded into something colder. "That doesn't matter either," he said flatly, his eyes filled with something I couldn't even understand. Before I could move, he suddenly lunged forward, his hands grabbing my arms tightly. Panic exploded through me like lightning. I screamed, my voice echoing through the house as I struggled with everything in me to break free. My chest felt tight, my heart beating so hard I thought it might burst. With all my strength, I shoved him away. Somehow, my legs carried me down the hallway. They shook under me, but I didn't stop running. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept going until I reached another room. I slammed the door shut and locked it with trembling hands. Inside, I collapsed onto the floor. My sobs came uncontrollably, my whole body shaking as if it couldn't take the fear anymore. I gasped for air, struggling to breathe. I had never been this terrified in my life. The weight of what had just happened crashed over me like a giant wave. My mind couldn't make sense of it. The man who should have been like a brother to me had become my worst nightmare. I stayed hidden in that room for what felt like endless hours, too afraid to come out, too afraid to even move. My thoughts raced in circles, one louder than the rest. Would I ever feel safe again? When my husband finally came home later that day, my chest tightened. I had been pacing around the room for hours, my hands cold and trembling. I knew I couldn't keep the truth inside anymore. As soon as he stepped in, I motioned for him to sit. My whole body was shaking as I lowered myself into a chair across from him. My heart beat so loudly I could almost hear it echo. "I need to tell you something," I whispered, my voice breaking. He looked at me, his face unreadable, and that only made me more nervous. I swallowed hard, trying to find the strength to speak. Then the words tumbled out, slow, heavy, painful. I told him everything. Every single detail of what his brother had done. How he came into my room. How he got too close. How I had to fight my way out. My lips quivered. My throat ached. But I kept going because he had to know. The whole time, my eyes searched his face, praying to see anger or shock, or even concern. Something. Anything. But when I finished, he just sat there.
Calm.
Too calm. Then he said it. "There's nothing wrong with that. My brother and I share everything." The air in the room turned heavy. I froze. His words echoed in my head, bouncing around until they didn't make sense anymore. Share everything? I blinked fast, my hands clutching the armrest of the chair. My stomach twisted like a knot. My mind reeled in disbelief. "Are you even listening to yourself?" I shouted suddenly, my voice shaking with rage. "He's your brother, and I am your wife. How can you say something like that?" My tears spilled over, blurring my vision. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. My breathing grew sharp, and I could taste the bitterness of betrayal on my tongue. The pain inside me burned like fire. "Are you even a man?" I spat out, my voice full of anger and hurt. The words cut through the silence like a blade. For the first time, I saw his expression flicker. His eyes widened slightly, and he stood up quickly, reaching his hands out toward me. "I'm sorry," he stammered, his voice shaky. "I didn't mean it like that. Please, please don't go." But I couldn't take it anymore. My body felt like it was on fire. I jumped up, tears streaking down my face, and yanked my suitcase from the corner. My hands moved wildly as I opened drawers and pulled clothes out, stuffing them into the bag without even folding them. Every slam of a drawer, every rustle of fabric, was louder than the last. My emotions spiraled, and I couldn't control my trembling. Behind me, I could hear his voice breaking.
"Please, don't leave me."
His footsteps rushed closer. His hands reached for me, trying to hold me still. But I shoved his hands away, my chest heaving. I spun around to face him. My eyes were sharp, my voice cold, my heart breaking into pieces. "The only way I'm staying," I said slowly, each word like a knife, "is if you show me you're my husband, make me feel like a woman right now." My eyes locked onto his, daring him to prove me wrong. His face turned pale instantly. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. He stood frozen, like a statue, his eyes wide with fear. The silence between us grew so loud it felt deafening. I could hear the ticking of the clock. I could hear the sound of my own shaky breath. He didn't move.
He didn't speak.
He just stood there, staring at the floor, avoiding my gaze as if the weight of my words was crushing him. And in that moment I realized something was very, very wrong. He lowered his head, staring at the floor. His voice was so small, I almost didn't hear it. I can't," he whispered. My body froze. My ears rang as my heart pounded so loudly it drowned out everything else. "What do you mean you can't?" I screamed, my voice breaking.
"Why?"
"Why won't you touch me? What is wrong with you?" The room went silent. A silence so long and so heavy that it pressed on my chest. My breath came short and shaky as I waited, desperate for an answer. Finally, after what felt like forever, he spoke again. His voice trembled, as if the words were tearing him apart. "I don't know how to tell you this," he whispered, his eyes filled with sadness I had never seen before. My heart stopped. My stomach twisted into knots. I watched in shock as his hands slowly rose to his shirt. His fingers shook as they fumbled with the buttons. One by one, he undid them, each click echoing in the stillness of the room. My eyes followed every movement, fear clawing at me. What was he about to show me?
Piece by piece, he undressed.
His hands trembled so much I thought he might collapse before he finished. At last, he stood there completely bare. And then, I saw it. Or rather, I didn't. There was nothing there. My knees gave way. I stumbled back, gasping loudly. My hands flew up to cover my mouth, but it couldn't hide the cry that burst out of me. What is this? I choked out, my voice cracking in disbelief. Hot tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. My whole body shook as sorrow and shock swallowed me whole. He looked at me then, broken. His own tears slipped down his face, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world sat on them. I was born this way, he said softly, barely more than a whisper. I'm sorry. I knew you wouldn't marry me if I told you. I staggered back, shaking my head again and again, as though doing that could erase what I was hearing. My chest ached, and the walls spun around me. You lied to me, I sobbed, my words sharp and broken. Why didn't you tell me? You made me believe we could have a normal life together. I'm sorry, he whispered again, his voice drenched with regret. But sorry felt empty, like a word too small to cover the damage. Nothing could fix the pain clawing through me. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the bed. I buried my face into my hands, sobs tearing through me, loud enough to echo in the room. The world I thought I had built, the love, the marriage, the dreams, shattered into sharp pieces that cut straight into my heart. Everything I thought I knew about my life shattered that night. It was as if the ground had been pulled out from under me, leaving me to fall endlessly into a world that felt empty and full of lies. The man I had loved with all my heart, the man I thought I knew, was now a stranger. A stranger who had built our entire marriage on a secret so big it tore my soul apart. I sat there for hours, my face buried in the pillow, sobbing until I couldn't breathe. My chest ached as if someone had reached inside and broken me into tiny, sharp pieces. The dreams I had carried for months, building a home together, raising children, growing old side by side, dissolved into nothing. I didn't know how to put myself back together. When the first light of morning touched the curtains, I was still awake. My eyes were swollen from crying all night. My heart felt like a stone pulling me down with its weight. I knew I couldn't stay another day. Not in this house. Not with this man who had lied to me, who had hidden such a huge truth from me. With trembling hands, I began to pack my bags. Each dress I folded felt like another memory being thrown away. Each item I placed inside made the pain sharper. My tears dripped onto the clothes as I stuffed them into the suitcase, my hands moving fast but unsteady. Behind me, I heard his voice, broken, desperate. I turned, and there he was on his knees, his face streaked with tears. Please don't go, he begged, his voice shaky and full of regret. His hands reached out toward mine, trembling just as much as mine were. For a moment, my body froze. A part of me still wanted to believe him, still wanted to believe that love could fix this. But the pain inside me screamed louder. My hands trembled as I pulled away from his grip. I can't stay, I whispered, my voice weak, every word soaked in pain. My own tears fell silently down my cheeks. His face crumbled as if my words had crushed what little hope he had left. But I couldn't let his pain stop me. I picked up my bags, my legs heavy as though they were carrying the weight of my broken heart. I stepped out of the house. Each step away from him felt like it was tearing something out of me. My tears blurred the path ahead, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. By the time I reached my parents' house, I was drained, physically, emotionally, completely. I stood at the doorway with my bags clutched tightly, my tears refusing to stop. Inside, my parents were sitting quietly in the living room. Their eyes shifted from calm to alarm the second they saw me. My mother rushed forward, her voice soft and filled with worry. What happened? She asked, wrapping her arms around me before I could even speak. Her embrace felt like a warm blanket, but it broke me even more. I collapsed against her, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. He doesn't I tried to speak, my voice cracking. The words fought their way out between my sobs. He doesn't have a manhood. I finally choked, my body trembling. He lied to me. He kept it from me. My mother's face turned pale. Her arms tightened around me, as if she could protect me from everything in that moment. Her tears fell too, but her touch stayed gentle, trying to calm me. Then came my father. His reaction was different. Harsh, explosive. His face turned red with fury. Suddenly, his fist slammed against the table, the loud thud shaking the room and making me jump in fright. "I told you not to marry that man," he roared, his voice booming like thunder. "I warned you." His words cut through me like a knife. "You didn't listen," he shouted, his eyes blazing with anger. "You followed your heart, and now look where it has gotten you." Every word pierced me, leaving me feeling smaller, weaker, more ashamed. I had married for love, pure love, but now love had betrayed me. My father's voice grew colder. "You will not stay here," he thundered, pointing toward the door. His glare burned into me. "Go back to your husband." My mother tried to calm him, her voice shaking, pleading softly, "Please, let her stay a while. She has been through enough." But my father was unmoved, his face hard as stone. His eyes, filled with fury, told me his decision was final. My father had wanted me to marry an old, wealthy man who had offered to clear my father's debt if I agreed to marry him, but I had refused. I couldn't imagine being with someone I didn't love, someone who was so much older than me. "You're not staying here," my father roared, his eyes burning with anger. "Go back to your husband." My heart sank. My legs felt weak. I realized that even in my parents' home, I had nowhere safe to turn. My mother clung to my father's arm, her tears falling fast. Her voice was soft but desperate. "Please let her stay," she whispered, her body trembling. "She's our daughter. Can't you see what she's going through? She's already broken. Don't send her back." But my father's face was carved with anger. His eyes burned like fire, his jaw locked so tightly that the veins on his neck stood out. He pointed toward the door with a hand that shook not with weakness, but with rage. "No," he thundered, his voice booming through the room. "She made her choice. She turned her back on my advice, and now she must live with it. There are no second chances." His words tore through me, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. My knees wobbled beneath me. Tears streamed down my face until I could no longer see clearly. I felt like the entire world was against me, like even the walls of the house that once sheltered me were now rejecting me. That night, I cried until my throat was raw. My pillow was wet, my eyes swollen, but the pain inside my chest refused to leave. I prayed silently that my father's anger would cool by morning, that he would open his heart. But the morning came, and with it a storm. The door to my room slammed open, so hard it shook the walls. I shot upright, startled, my heart racing. My father stood in the doorway, his face dark with fury. His shadow stretched across the room, heavy and menacing. Without a word, he marched to my bags, yanked them off the floor, and dragged them toward the door. I tried to speak, but no words came out, only a choked sob. Outside, the sound of my mother's cries filled the air like a haunting echo. She clutched at his arm, begging him to stop.
"Please.
Please don't do this," she cried, her voice breaking. "She's our child. Let her stay just one more day." But he was unshakable, his anger towering above her soft pleas. He shoved the bags outside, with a force that made my body jolt. Then his voice thundered again, shaking me to my core. "Go back to your husband." I froze in place, my body trembling with humiliation. The shame burned so deep inside me that I couldn't lift my head. My tears fell fast, hot against my skin. With trembling hands, I picked up my bags. My mother's cries still rang behind me, but they couldn't stop what was happening. Each step toward the door felt heavier than the last, as though I was walking under the weight of the whole world. I didn't look back. I couldn't.
My heart was too shattered.
The walk back to my husband's house felt endless. The air was cold, the streets quiet, but inside me was a storm of pain, shame, and hopelessness. By the time I reached the house, my legs felt like they might give out. When I stepped inside, he was there. My husband. But he didn't say a single word. His eyes were cold, empty, like he wasn't looking at me at all, but straight through me. I lowered my head, silently unpacking my things. Each fold of cloth into the drawer was like another chain locking me into a cage I could never escape. The silence in the house was suffocating. I felt trapped, hopeless, like a prisoner in my own life. That night, my heart beat unevenly, sensing something terrible in the air. And then it happened. The front door opened and my husband walked in. But he wasn't alone. His older brother stepped inside, right behind him. The instant my eyes landed on him, fear shot through me like ice water. My stomach twisted, and I stumbled back, trembling. Memories of that awful moment came rushing back. The sly smile, the heavy hands, the terror. I pressed myself against the wall, but they kept walking toward me. The sound of their shoes on the floor echoed in my ears like thunder, each step louder, heavier, suffocating me. My husband's face was calm.
Too calm.
His voice when he finally spoke was flat, cold, and distant. "It's time for you to give me a baby." The words slammed into me like a stone. My chest tightened, and I could no longer breathe. My body froze completely, locked in place. It felt like every bone inside me had turned to ice. And then his brother smiled. But it wasn't a smile of kindness. It was twisted, dark, cruel. A smile that made my blood run cold. His eyes glittered with something wicked, something that made my heart pound so hard I thought it would burst. He stepped forward, his voice low and chilling. "Take off your—" The rest of his words cut through the air like a blade. My breath caught in my throat. My body shook uncontrollably. I couldn't move. My mind screamed for me to run, but my legs were frozen to the ground. The room spun, the walls closing in on me as dread swallowed me whole. My husband's brother gave me a smile, so wicked it made my blood run cold. My heart pounded with terror, thudding so loud in my ears that I thought it might burst. He stepped closer, his eyes burning with something dark, something I couldn't understand but feared with every bone in my body. "Take off your clothes," he hissed, his voice thick and twisted, dripping with evil. "If my brother can't do it, then you'll make a baby with me instead." The room spun around me. My knees went weak, and my chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. Tears welled up in my eyes, spilling down my cheeks as I shook my head again and again. "No, please no," I whispered, my voice breaking. The words barely came out. Fear had wrapped its cruel hands around my throat, choking me. My whole body trembled, my stomach knotted, so tightly it hurt. In that moment of desperation, I did the only thing I could think of. My knees gave way, and I dropped down onto the cold floor. My hands, weak and shaking, clung tightly to my husband's leg. Tears streamed freely down my face, soaking into his clothes as I sobbed. "Please, baby," I begged, my voice trembling so hard it sounded foreign even to me. "There has to be another way, please, we can solve this together." "But I can't do this. I can't sleep with your brother. Please don't make me." I lifted my tear-streaked face toward him, searching desperately for any sign of love, for any flicker of compassion in his eyes. For a long, painful moment, he just stood there in silence. His expression was unreadable, his jaw tight. My heart pounded harder, terrified that he was really considering it. Then his face softened, just a little. I saw something like pity in his eyes. Slowly, he turned his gaze toward his brother. Their eyes met. And then, with a small nod, my husband silently signaled him to leave. Relief crashed over me like a wave, but it was mixed with fear that refused to leave. I stayed on my knees, sobbing quietly, my tears dripping onto the floor. My whole body shook like a leaf in the wind. After a moment, my husband bent down and gently pulled me up, wrapping his arms around me. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Calm down," he murmured. "Stop crying." But the way he said it, it didn't comfort me. It only made me feel smaller, more fragile. He left shortly after, muttering that he needed time to think. The sound of the door closing behind him left me standing alone in the room, my chest hollow, my tears still running. That night, when he finally returned, he didn't say a single word. Not one. We lay in bed together, side by side, but it felt like there was a mountain between us. Both of us stared into the darkness, wide awake, each lost in our own thoughts. The silence was unbearable, heavy, pressing down on me like a stone. I could barely see him in the dim light, but I could feel the weight of his presence beside me. Hours passed before I gathered the courage to speak. My voice was small, almost afraid to break the silence. "Please, just listen," I whispered, my throat tight. "I understand you want a baby. I know you can't perform as a husband, but bringing your brother into this," my voice shook, "it's dangerous. One day, he could use it against you, against us." In the faint glow, I saw his face tighten. He didn't answer right away, so I reached out and held his hand. His fingers were warm, but they felt distant, as if he wasn't really there with me. Tears pricked my eyes again as I poured out my heart. But he turned his face away, his voice soft yet stubborn. "My brother wouldn't do that," he said firmly. "He's my blood. I trust him. I wanted to help us because he's family." My chest ached. I shook my head, my tears spilling again. "There are other ways, baby," I pleaded, my voice breaking. "We could find someone else, a stranger. We could even leave this place, start over somewhere new, far away from anyone who knows us." I hesitated, shame burning my cheeks as I forced myself to say the unthinkable. "I would never imagine being with another man, let alone your brother. But if it means giving you a child, if it means saving us, I'll do it. Just please let me find the person myself." We went back and forth for hours. Sometimes our voices were soft, filled with hurt. Other times they rose, sharp with frustration. Every word left me more drained, more broken. At last, after what felt like a lifetime of tears and begging, he gave me his answer. He sighed at last, slow and tired, like someone who had fought a long battle and had no strength left. "Okay," he said quietly, his voice small and beaten. "Do it your way. Let her choose." Relief washed over me like warm water. I felt it in my chest, soft and sudden. For a moment, I let myself breathe. But the room still felt strange, as if a quiet storm was hiding just outside the door. We lay there in the dim light, side by side, both of us too tired to speak. The silence sat heavy between us, full of questions I could not answer. I kept wondering what would happen next. The next morning, I was walking down the stairs carrying a cup of tea when I heard voices coming from the living room. They were raised, angry voices, my husband and his brother arguing. My steps slowed without me meaning to. Curiosity pulled me closer. I moved softly toward the doorway and stopped where I could listen without being seen. My husband's voice sounded firm as he said, "We're moving to another state. That's what we should do." But his brother's answer came like a hiss. "You can't just run away," he spat. "If you leave, you'll lose control over her. If she meets another man, she might leave you. You must keep her close." My skin went cold. I pressed my hand to my mouth so they wouldn't hear me breathing. Their words felt like icy fingers on my neck. My husband tried to be steady. "I've thought about it. I've made up my mind," he replied, his voice hard but small. Still, his brother wouldn't let the idea go. He kept talking, saying things that made my stomach twist. "If you really want a family," he said in a low voice that sounded like a warning, "let me be the one to give you children. That way, you will still have your family. Think about it, if you let someone else near her, you could lose her forever." My heart started to pound so fast my ears rang. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why would he say something like that? Why did he want to be the one so badly? It felt wrong in a way that made my skin crawl. He sounded like a man with plans I did not know about, plans that put me in danger. Their voices climbed and fell, louder now, full of heat and fear. My husband's brother was angry and sounding almost desperate. "If you leave and go with her plan," he hissed, "then don't come back. You'll have betrayed me and our plans." His words were sharp, like a threat. I realized I had heard too much. A cold fear crawled up my back. What if they knew I was there listening? What would they do if they found me? I dared not stay. My legs trembled as I slowly, quietly turned and tiptoed back up the stairs, heart banging in my chest like a drum. At the top, I pressed myself against the wall, breath held, waiting for any sound that might give me away. The house felt different now, dangerous and full of secrets. One sunny afternoon, weeks after that terrifying night, my husband and I finally packed up all our belongings. We loaded our clothes, books, and little things into bags and boxes and left his family's house behind. My heart was pounding with both fear and hope. Fear because of all the darkness we were running from. Hope because maybe, just maybe, a new beginning would give me back my peace. We moved to a new state, a place I had chosen carefully, not because it was beautiful, though it was. Not because it was far from his brother, though that gave me relief. No, I picked it because someone very special lived there. Someone I once loved with all my heart, my old boyfriend, Charles. Back then, Charles made me so happy. He was gentle, kind, and every smile he gave me felt like sunshine. But he wasn't ready to settle down. He loved me, but he didn't talk about marriage or building a family. My parents didn't like that. They kept telling me it was time to be with someone serious, someone who could provide and protect. Charles was sweet, but he lived without big dreams or big plans, and that worried me. So, with a broken heart, I walked away. Not long after, I met the man who would become my husband. It was at church. He seemed perfect, like an angel sent from God himself. He was polite, soft-spoken, always smiling, always so kind. Everything about him looked right. We started as friends. We shared stories, laughed at little things, and spent hours talking. His company felt safe, comforting. Then, after 2 months, we began dating. To me, it felt magical, like a fairy tale I never thought I would live. Every week, he'd show up with flowers, bright, colorful ones that smelled like joy. Sometimes, he left sweet little notes that made my heart flutter. He picked me up after work, never late, always greeting me with that big, warm smile. He seemed like a prince from a storybook, a man who cared deeply, who loved deeply. We prayed together. We sat side by side at church every Sunday, our heads bowed, hands lifted. He never missed a service. He prayed passionately, tears sometimes rolling down his face. Watching him made me believe he was a man after God's heart. I told myself, this is the one. I've finally won at life. One weekend, he invited me to stay at his house for the first time. That evening, we sat together quietly, and when he leaned closer, our lips met. But just as the kiss deepened, he gently pulled back. He cupped my face in his hands and said softly, "We have to wait until marriage." I was surprised but also touched. My heart swelled, thinking, wow, he truly respects me. He wants to honor God. He wants to protect our love. I thought it was the most beautiful thing. I believed him when he said he wanted our love to remain pure. But what I didn't know was that behind all that kindness, he was hiding a secret. A secret so big, it would one day turn my world upside down. The truth was, my husband didn't have a manhood. But he never told me. Not even once. He wore his perfect mask so well, I didn't see the cracks. And that wasn't all. He had another plan too, one so shocking I never could have imagined it in my worst nightmares. His plan was for me to have a baby with his own brother. At the time, I knew nothing. I thought I was safe, cared for. I thought he was leading me toward love and light. Instead, he was leading me into a trap. Slowly, he began to change things in my life. He convinced me to quit my job. He said it was too stressful, that the pay wasn't good enough. "You don't need to work there," he said, smiling kindly. "I'll help you find something better." I trusted him. I believed his words.
I thought he wanted what was best for me.
So I handed in my resignation, leaving behind the job that had been my independence. What I didn't know was that his smile hid another intention. Deep down, he wanted me without money. He wanted me dependent on him for every single thing. He wanted control. And by the time I realized it, it was already too late. I sat outside on the porch of our quiet new house, staring at the unfamiliar walls around me. The air was still, yet inside my chest, everything spun like a whirlwind. My thoughts collided with one another, anger, betrayal, and sorrow, all crashing into me at once. Every memory of my husband's sweet smiles, his soft words, his careful touches, they now felt like tricks, masks,
Lies.
I wrapped my arms around myself as a chill ran down my spine. I hated him, not because of what he lacked, but because he had hidden it from me. Because he tried to force me into something so dark, something I could never forgive. How could he? All the love I thought we shared felt like nothing more than smoke, an illusion carefully painted to keep me blind. From the very beginning, it seemed he had been hiding his true self from me. And now that truth had ripped me apart. But as I sat there, with the weight of the silence pressing on me, something inside me hardened.
A spark lit in my chest.
I made a decision that day. I would no longer be his pawn. I would no longer take advice or orders from anyone. I would show him that this game he was playing, I could play it too. And I would win. I would get revenge for everything he had done to me. 2 long weeks passed in that house. 2 weeks of silence, so heavy it felt like a storm cloud hanging above us. My husband hardly spoke to me, and when he did, his words were short, clipped, without warmth. Every corner of the house seemed to echo with things left unsaid. Then, early one morning, he called me into the living room. My heart pounded as I stepped into the space, the air thick with tension. He sat there, his face cold, his eyes unreadable. "You have 2 more weeks," he said slowly, his voice calm, too calm. 2 weeks to find a man who will get you pregnant. If you don't, I'll choose someone myself. The way his eyes burned when he said it, disturbing, unshakable, made me shiver. My heart raced, fear clawing at my chest. But I forced myself to keep my face steady. I would not let him see the storm inside me. When he left the room, I sank into the chair, my body trembling. My mind screamed in chaos. Then, with shaking hands, I reached for my phone. My fingers hesitated above the screen, but I knew what I had to do. I dialed Charles's number. As the phone rang, my hand trembled so hard I almost dropped it. Then his voice came, warm, familiar, like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Hello." The sound of him nearly broke me. He sounded surprised, then happy, genuinely happy to hear from me. That small spark of warmth calmed the storm inside, even just a little. We spoke briefly, catching our breath after years apart, and agreed to meet that evening at a quiet little restaurant nearby. That night, I walked toward the restaurant, my heart hammering against my ribs. The lights glowed softly, spilling out onto the street, and through the window, I saw him.
Charles.
He was sitting by the window, waiting, his eyes searching. The moment he saw me, his whole face lit up with a smile so genuine that for the first time in months, I felt a little piece of happiness find its way back to me. I walked in slowly, and he stood for just a moment, like he wanted to pull me into a hug, but instead we both sat. Our eyes met, and the silence between us spoke volumes before words even came. We talked. We laughed nervously, catching up on all the time we had lost. But eventually I took a deep breath, my hands twisting under the table, and I told him everything. Every single truth. My husband's lies. The hidden secret. The twisted plan he wanted me to follow. Charles's face changed as I spoke. The smile faded, replaced by shock, then by something gentler. Sadness, deep and heavy. His eyes, once bright, dimmed with sorrow as he shook his head. "I can't believe he did that to you," he said softly, his voice pained. "You deserve so much better." Then, slowly, he reached across the table and took my hand in his. His palm was warm, steady, grounding me. I felt my fears quiet just a little under his touch. And then he said words I didn't expect. Words that cut through the pain like light through darkness. "I still care about you. I always have. If you need me, I'll be here." My eyes stung with tears, but this time, they weren't just from pain. They were from hope. Hearing those words made my heart feel lighter, as if a giant weight had been lifted. In that moment, I knew Charles was still someone I could trust. He had always been real, always been true. He was nothing like my husband's lies. I squeezed his hand and whispered, "Come with me. Meet him. I want you to see for yourself." Charles nodded firmly, no hesitation in his eyes. He would stand with me. We left the restaurant together, side by side, the cool night air brushing against us. With every step, my heart pounded louder, knowing what awaited us back home. When we entered the house, my husband was there, sitting on the couch. His posture was calm, too calm, but his eyes gave him away. They were sharp, expectant, like he had been waiting for this moment. He looked at Charles, then back at me, his gaze narrowing slightly. "Who's this?" he asked, his voice low, his tone testing. I kept my chin up, my voice calm and steady, though inside my chest, fear churned like a storm. "This is Charles," I said simply. "I met him on an app." I didn't let my voice shake. I didn't let him know that Charles was someone from my past. Not yet. My husband did not ask many questions when I said someone would move in. But I could see his eyes change, a dark flicker of something like jealousy. I told him it would be easier if Charles stayed with us. "We won't have to sneak around," I said quietly. "It will stop people from wondering." He agreed. He wanted people to see him as a good, honorable man. Even at our new church, he tried to look like the most devoted member. He liked others to think he was a saint. When Charles moved in, things changed fast. I had already planned what would happen. Charles and I had talked it through. We wanted to teach my husband a lesson he would never forget. I felt my hands shake with both fear and a strange new strength. That first night was the start of our plan. I took a bath and then lay down beside my husband. I tried to look calm. I acted like everything was normal. My heart was loud in my chest, but I kept my face still. A few minutes later, Charles walked into the bedroom. He had no shirt on, his chest visible in the dim light. He walked slowly, looking at me, and then looking at my husband. My throat went dry. Before either man could say anything, Charles came closer to the bed. Then, in front of my husband, he kissed me, right there in front of him. My husband's eyes grew very wide. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His voice shook as he stammered, "Will you leave my wife alone?" But Charles did not step back. He looked my husband straight in the eyes, and he smiled in a way that felt like a dare. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. No Manhood," Charles said, his tone mocking. "But it's time. We're going to make that baby." My husband went very still. His face turned pale. Tears filled his eyes. He slowly stepped back out of the room, his shoulders bent, like a man carrying a heavy shame. He was broken. He had thought he could force me, but now he was the one who looked lost and hurt. As soon as the door shut behind him, Charles and I kept going with the plan. I wanted my husband to hear everything. I made sure my voice was loud enough. I spoke to Charles in soft, close words, the kind that would make anyone listening feel jealous and hurt. I laughed a little and whispered things that would sting. Every sound I made, every laugh, every low word, was part of what I planned. It was revenge. I did not feel guilty. Not that night. Not after all I had gone through. That night was only the beginning. I was not going to stop until my husband felt some of the pain and betrayal he had given me. The next morning, I stepped out of the bedroom with a bundle of clothes in my arms. They weren't just mine. They were Charles's too. The fabric still carried the scent of last night, and I made no effort to hide it. In the living room, my husband sat slumped on the couch. His body looked stiff, lifeless, like a man who hadn't slept a wink. His eyes were swollen and red, as if he had cried through the night. He stared off into nothing, lost, broken. I didn't greet him. I didn't show an ounce of kindness. Instead, I walked over and tossed the pile of dirty clothes right into his lap. "Wash these," I ordered, my tone sharp, my eyes cold. "I need them clean." He blinked in confusion, his lips parting slightly as he looked up at me. "Why would I wash your clothes and Charles's?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I leaned closer, a cruel smile tugging at my lips. "Oh, we were busy all night," I said slowly, drawing out every word. "Busy working on the bed. You wouldn't understand. But we're tired, and I need those clothes washed." His face drained of color. For a moment, he sat frozen. Then he stood quickly, anger breaking through his sadness. His voice cracked as he snapped, "How dare you speak to me like that? I'm your husband." I met his gaze without flinching. My voice was steady, filled with contempt. "You stopped being my husband the day you tried to ruin my life by forcing me toward your brother. That day, you lost me." I tilted my head, my words like poison. "Now, Mr. No Manhood, get busy with the laundry." He stared at me, shocked, refusing to move. His voice trembled as he finally muttered, "I'm not going to wash those clothes." I stepped closer, my eyes narrowing, my tone turning ice cold. "If you don't," I whispered, "you'll regret it. I'll tell everyone. I'll tell the church, the neighbors, everyone you've been fooling, that you don't have a manhood. That you plan to let your own brother—" My words trailed off, heavy with a threat. "You have no idea what I can do." His face crumpled, the fight draining out of him. He realized he was trapped. Slowly, his shoulders sagging, he picked up the clothes and shuffled toward the door to wash them. I watched him go, feeling no pity, no mercy, only the deep ache of betrayal in my chest and the fire of revenge burning stronger than ever. From that day on, I made it my mission to make his life miserable. Every chance I got, I kissed Charles right in front of him, pressing close, whispering soft words that should have been his to hear. I made sure he saw every ounce of affection I gave away to someone else. I forced him into house chores, humiliated him whenever I could. I wanted him to feel powerless, just as he had made me feel. One night, I whispered my boldest plan yet into Charles's ear. "I wanted to sit in the room and watch," I said. Charles smirked, eager, ready to play along. When I called my husband in, he tried to avoid it. His feet dragged, his eyes stayed low, but I wouldn't let him slip away. At last, he walked in, broken, and sat stiffly on the couch. From the corner of my eye, I saw the tears already forming. Charles and I held each other close, whispering softly, laughing, sharing words that once should have belonged to my marriage. I lifted my head just enough to glance at my husband. Tears streamed down his cheeks. His face was twisted with despair, hollow, empty, the face of a man who had lost everything. And in truth he had. He had lost me. My respect. My love. My heart. Days turned into weeks, and I watched him fall apart more and more. Sometimes I caught him slipping into a room alone, his shoulders shaking as he cried quietly, like a lost child. He stopped going to church. He stopped caring about anything. His spirit was broken, crushed under the weight of what I had become to him. But no matter how much he suffered, I felt no sorrow, no guilt, only the deep, burning anger he had planted inside me the day he tried to destroy my life. Now he was the one in pieces. And, to me, that was justice. Then came one evening I'll never forget. Charles and I returned from the mall, our arms full of bags. We had spent hours laughing, buying new things together, while my husband had been left behind. But when I stepped inside the house, I stopped dead in my tracks. There he was, my husband, sprawled out on the couch, his head tilted back. Loud snores rattled from his throat. He looked completely out of it, like he had lost himself completely. My breath caught. My eyes narrowed. A strange mix of confusion and unease crawled up my spine. Because in all the time I had known him, my husband never touched alcohol. So, why did he look like this now? The house was a disaster. Dishes piled high in the sink. Crumbs scattered across the floor like no one had cared for days. The air smelled stale, heavy. I dropped my bags by the door and frowned. I walked over to the couch where my husband was sprawled out, snoring loudly. His body looked limp, his face slack. My chest tightened with unease. I leaned down and shook him gently. "Hey," I said sharply, "wake up. Why didn't you clean the house? Why didn't you wash the dishes?" He blinked, his eyes red and unfocused, his voice slurred as he muttered, "Am I your maid?" His tone was annoyed, dismissive, as if I had asked too much. The words struck something deep inside me. Rage boiled up, sharp and fast. "Don't talk to me like that, you weak man," I snapped, my voice echoing through the room. The tension grew thick. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. From the corner, Charles stood still, his face tight, watching silently, uncertain of what to do. Just as I turned to leave, my husband's hand shot out. His fingers clamped around my arm. Before I could pull away, his palm struck hard against my cheek. Slap. The sting was instant, burning across my face. My body froze. My mind went blank. My chest rose and fell quickly as disbelief tore through me. I couldn't process what had just happened. Did he really just hit me? But before I could react, Charles moved. His jaw clenched, his fists tight. In 2 long strides, he was beside us. His hand swung out and connected sharply with my husband's cheek. Slap. The sound echoed. My husband stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. My heart raced as I turned to Charles. Without thinking, I shouted, my voice trembling, "Don't you ever lay a hand on my husband." Charles froze, taken aback. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His eyes were wide, stunned. I pressed on, tears filling my eyes, my voice raw with anger. "You cheated on me when we were dating, and I forgave you. What makes you any better than him?" I was furious, my body shaking. My finger shot toward the door.
Please.
"Just go. Pack your things and leave my house." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Shock. Hurt. His lips trembled, but he said nothing. At last, he turned slowly, his shoulders heavy with defeat. He walked into the other room, picked up his bags, and without a word, he left. The door clicked shut behind him, and instantly, the regret hit me. A heavy wave crashed down, pulling me under. I sank onto the bed, burying my face in my hands, my sobs shaking my body. Tears poured endlessly, dripping onto the sheets. My life felt like a tangled mess, broken, twisted, unrecognizable. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. My husband appeared in the doorway. His face was pale, his eyes swollen, his expression full of desperation. Slowly, he knelt down in front of me. "I'm so sorry for everything," he whispered, his voice shaky. His hands trembled as he reached for mine. "I didn't tell you the truth. I lied. But one thing is real. I love you. I loved you then and I still love you now. Please forgive me." My sobs grew louder. My heart cracked open at his words. Between gasps, I whispered, "I have forgiven you. From the bottom of my heart, I forgive you. But I can't stay in this marriage anymore. I need to find happiness again." He begged me, tears streaming down his face, pleading for me to stay. His voice broke with every word. But deep down, I knew it was over. I stood and began to pack my bags. Each item I folded felt like another goodbye. The weight in my chest grew heavier and heavier, but I knew I had to leave. I called my best friend, my voice breaking as I asked, "Can I stay with you until I figure things out?" Without hesitation, she agreed. As I walked toward the door, my husband lay on the floor behind me, crying, broken, his sobs echoing through the room. My heart twisted, but I didn't look back. My feet carried me out, away from the wreckage of my marriage. When I arrived at my friend's place, she welcomed me with open arms. Her house felt safe, like a shelter from a storm. But even there, the pain followed me. At night, I lay awake, haunted by everything I had done, everything I had allowed. Sometimes guilt crushed me. Sometimes I hated myself. Sometimes I felt like I had crossed a line I could never step back from. After a few days, I sat with my friend, my voice soft but determined. "I need help," I admitted. "I need therapy. Someone who can help me understand what's happening inside me. Because I don't even recognize myself anymore." Other times, I felt something different, something I almost hated to admit. A strange sense of satisfaction. Like I had finally taken back some control after everything that had been stolen from me. But the mix of anger, guilt, and satisfaction left me lost. It was like looking into a mirror and not knowing who I was anymore. During my first therapy session, I sat on the edge of the chair, my hands clutched together, nervous. The room was soft and quiet, painted in calm colors. Across from me, the therapist watched me with gentle eyes, not judging, only waiting. "Tell me your story," she said softly. At first, the words got stuck in my throat. But slowly, one by one, they came out. I told her about my marriage, the lies, the betrayal, the revenge, and the shame. As I spoke, it felt like each word was a heavy stone falling out of my chest. The silence in the room made my voice sound louder in my own head, echoing until my eyes filled with tears. For the first time, I felt the full weight of my choices pressing down on me. I couldn't hold back anymore, and the tears spilled over. 8 months passed after I left my marriage. 8 months of rebuilding. I found a good job, one that gave me both freedom and confidence. Slowly, day by day, I started to feel like myself again. There were moments of laughter, moments of peace, and even moments where I felt truly happy. Still, deep inside, I carried a quiet hope. A hope that maybe, someday, love would find me again. But for now, I promised myself one thing. I would live my life to the fullest, even if it meant walking alone for a while. One sunny afternoon, I decided to take a walk in the park near my new apartment. The air was warm, the sky stretched clear and blue, and the sound of children laughing filled the space. Flowers bloomed along the path, their colors bright and alive, as if reminding me that beauty still existed. I watched the kids playing on the swings, their tiny feet kicking the air, their giggles ringing like music. My lips curved into a smile. For the first time in a long time, it felt good just to be outside, breathing, living. Then, I heard soft, carefree laughter behind me. I turned, and my heart melted at the sight. A little girl was running, her arms stretched wide as if she wanted to embrace the whole world. Her mother knelt down, waiting for her, and the child crashed into her arms with pure joy. The light on the girl's face made me smile wider. It reminded me of myself long ago, when I was carefree, when happiness came easy, before life had broken me. But then something else caught my eye. On a bench nearby, a man sat quietly, reading a book. His posture was relaxed, his face calm, as if he felt at home in the world, almost as if the chaos of life had never touched him. He looked up. Our eyes met. For a moment, time slowed. His gaze was warm, steady, inviting, not judging, not heavy, just open. And then he smiled. A simple smile, yet it carried something gentle, something kind. I felt it immediately, a small flutter in my chest, like a spark of life lighting inside me. A spark of hope. I smiled back, shyly, then turned to keep walking. My steps felt lighter than they had in months. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for love to find me again. As I walked past the bright flowers and the sound of children laughing, I breathed deeply, filling my lungs with fresh air. For the first time, the weight of the past did not press down as heavily. I didn't know what the future held. But I knew this. I was moving forward, step by step, day by day. And in that quiet, sunlit moment, I realized something powerful. I was finally ready to embrace life again. Not with fear, not with anger, but with hope. The path to true happiness was waiting for me, and at last, I had found the strength to walk it.